Let's talk about this further. We have our expert guest joining us now. Ambassador Gurjeet Singh, former senior diplomat, is with us. What do you make of this incident, first of all, Ambassador Singh? Because China seems to be suggesting that it's happened inadvertently.
Well, China always wants to believe that its actions are always misunderstood, whereas it is actually an innocent party. But given the state of distrust with China and their record in the Senkakus, with the Philippines, with Indonesia, and with Taiwan, and of course with India, nobody quite believes that they are an innocent standby person in this and they are doing it inadvertently. The Chinese are testing Japanese defenses, undoubtedly. And while earlier they were doing it around the Senkakus, more recently, Chinese aircraft and ships have traversed the straits near Hokkaido in the north of Japan. But this is the first time I have heard of them coming near the Nagasaki prefecture in the deep southwest. So this is expanding the area of contention and probing Japanese defenses. I think in about 2 minutes, they saw that the Japanese reacted quickly with several planes going up. But this is what this effort was, to check the state of readiness of Japan.
Right. Now, what is China, apart from the state of readiness, because it's not just Japan that it's had such confrontations with or has had such misadventures with. It's with Taiwan, which is under US protection. It's with in the waters. It's with the Philippines. It's with Indonesia as well, with Vietnam. So all these eventually bring it up to some sort of a confrontational situation with the Americans, doesn't it?
Indeed. So the Chinese claim that under the 9-dash line, they have claims over the entire South China Sea, and therefore they shelve the territorial claims over islands and islets of Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan. Indonesia has no territorial claim, but they claim part of the Indonesian EEZ in the Natuna Sea. So with every country, they are trying a different tactic. With Taiwan, it is a larger issue of them saying this is my territory and I would like to integrate it. And meanwhile, they keep testing the defenses, they keep intruding repeatedly across the median line, both through the Navy and the Air Force. The Philippines have now been in the forefront of this action because under the current president, Marcos Jr., the Philippines have decided to take on the Chinese. Now, the Philippines Navy and Coast Guard are not strong. So the Philippines has accentuated their treaty with the United States and Japan and also have new arrangements with Australia to strengthen their hand. They have a grounded ship on a remote islet which they use to buttress their claim on that islet. Now, whenever they want to resupply it, the Chinese Coast Guard is going and intruding. Now, they are not shooting, but they are banging their boats, they are using lasers, they are threatening them with clubs. So it is a very primitive kind of physical action. And this is how China intends to have its claim on the South China Sea clearly shown up. This is a very difficult situation for a country like Philippines because they do not want to enter a war and other ASEAN countries are not exactly standing up with them. In fact, Vietnam, which for years was the lead anti-Chinese country on the South China Sea, has actually become quite quiet and dormant. We have to see this in the light of China militarizing the Spratly Islands, which in 2015, President Xi had clearly told ASEAN they would never do. So the Chinese are not keeping their word, not abiding by any agreements even initiated by them, so really are very untrustworthy and violent partners.
And how should India be weighing this? Because India not only has stakes in that particular region where these confrontations are going on, but it has an unresolved boundary with China, because of which there's been confrontation in eastern Ladakh, and since then our ties have not been normal.
Indeed. So I think India has made it very clear to China that because the situation on our border is not normal, the relationship cannot be normal. And while discussions at the military level, diplomatic level, some at the level of the ministers go on, there has been no solution to India's issues. Now, India thinks that we should not allow China to up their stake in the Indian Ocean region. So therefore, India keeps calling for China to abide by a rules-based international order, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which the Chinese are loath to do. So recently, when the Malaysian Prime Minister was here, India made this clear. Earlier, the Vietnamese Prime Minister was here, and India also made that clear. In the India-Japan 2+2, which happened in between these two visits, this issue was clearly discussed. So India is upping the ante by deploying its Navy and Coast Guard more frequently in the area. And while Philippines is having a problem, an Indian naval ship visited Philippines, an Indian submarine visited Jakarta in Indonesia. So our presence is being noted. The question comes up, is there going to be a clash between, let us say, American ships if they choose to escort the Filipino supply missions, or what happens if an Indian ship runs into a Chinese ship? So with the Chinese, this miscommunication and misunderstanding issues can very easily come up because they don't do things on a misunderstanding. They do it on a planned basis and then pretend that it was in error. I think we need to be very careful about Chinese intentions.
But do you think that China feels that it can take on the collective might of whoever it confronts, because whoever it confronts to a certain extent will perhaps have the backing of the United States?
Certainly the United States is there, but I think Japan, India and Australia, plus some European powers, are now more visible in the Indo-Pacific. Recently, the Germans, the Italians, the British, the French, everybody was there for exercises. RIMPAC in Hawaii, and then with Japan, then with Australia, and more recently, Tarang Shakti with India. Now, we are all there, but I don't think anybody is ready to pick up a fight. And that will happen only of grave miscalculation by China. But if they miscalculate and, for instance, kill somebody, I think they would be retaliate. And that certainly is a danger for our region. Meanwhile, we need to watch the Taiwan issue very closely, because that is where miscalculation can happen more frequently and more suddenly.
Well, let's hope it doesn't. Thanks a lot for joining us to talk about it this evening, Ambassador Gurjeet Singh.